focus today is really to deepen into what we acknowledge as the guideposts to creating ceremony, as well as the structure and considerations of creating ceremony. So here are the 4 guideposts to ceremony as we are holding them and, delving into these. That it is very inherent and natural in Indigenous worldviews to have anchor stones that hold important or essential aspects of a teaching. And anchor stones are not linear, they're in relationship to one another, they're informing one another, they're very dynamic. And so we might refer to these as pillars or interacting aspects or guideposts, as well as we will find this similarly in many traditions. And what that does is provides a clear structure within which a great deal is able to move. So part of this is the simplicity of being able to journey through these sort of anchor stones, these guideposts, and see and allow that to inform what's coming forward in you around ceremony or around the ceremony creation process. So our intention for this is to take you through these 4 guideposts in consideration of a personal need that you might have and creating a ceremony to meet this need. Or it might be co-creating a ceremony, for example, with a partner, with a family, with a group for this. And some of these needs might be, for example, the need for answering a specific question. So the need for clarity, guidance, decision-making. It could be the need for feeling, for actually having a designated moment for being with feelings. And similarly, catharsis, release, being able to put something down, and sort of the containment around this. It could be a need for silence or for space, for personal space, for coming back to yourself, and that sort of presence or restoration with oneself, especially in an otherwise, stimulated world. It could also be a need for connection. So whether this is connection with a partner, whether this is something that you have as a couple's experience, or with your family system, or it could be connection with a bigger perspective. So for example, with the landscape where you live, with your ancestors, with a purpose or a vision that you're holding. So we are defining ceremony as an intentional action or set of actions done in support of a clear intention. And it has a clear beginning, middle, and end. And it can also mark a significant time or transition.
So we want to look through and talk about the different guideposts here now and considerations. And the first one, and where we always want to begin, is with the intention. It's the very first step in creating the ceremony, as the intention is like a compass. It's where the arrow direction that we're going. What is it that we're doing? What do we want to accomplish, or what do we want to honor or celebrate in this ceremony? So the intention itself is critical because it really guides everything that happens from there. And the intention is really based on and connected with the different stages that we've talked about in the webinar and that is written about in the guidebook here. So, and there are journal questions there that might help you consider, what is it that you're celebrating or honoring? Is it a letting go? Is there a need to really honor and end consciously with some old identity or stage of life? Or is the intention for the ceremony about being in the unknown, asking a question, asking for guidance, asking for support to really keep taking one step at a time in that space of neither here nor there? Or is the intention for the ceremony incorporation or celebration, really honoring stepping into this new space or responsibility, identity in your life? And once we have the intention, then everything else follows. What do we want to do to support that, etc.? The second guidepost is what we call connection. And this is really looking at who or what supports us. We live in community. We live in an interrelated web of life. And the idea is that as we do ceremony and as we honor what's true for us, we not only honor ourselves and our own experience, but as we do that, we claim more of ourselves to be available to our people, to our community, to really our being able to live more fully and live our gifts. And so it's really helpful and supportive to feel our interconnectedness through this web, through our community. And when we say community, we really look at that very widely. So that could be the humans that are our community. That could be the earth and the earth beings. It might be spiritual support, that which supports us in the spiritual realms. So what or who is your community? And in considering this, how might you want community to be involved in the ceremony? That might be the function of being witnessed, having people there with you, which always heightens the energy, heightens the potency of the intention. Or depending on what the honoring is, you might just have one person. You might have your partner or a guide that can support you, or you are supporting your clients in an individual, more individualized ceremony. We can also include community through letting people that we love or the beings that support us know that we're about to do ceremony and asking them to hold space in a particular way. Maybe send out prayers or light a candle for us in with the intention that we're doing ceremony for. So many ways to really include the awareness of and the support of community.
So guidepost number 3, meaningful symbols. So symbols hold an energy, an essence, and they connect us to places, they connect us to particular qualities, to elemental beings, to parts of our landscape. They might also connect us to family members that are past, or elements of our culture, our cultural identity, stories. And so when we bring in meaningful symbols, they're coming in as one of the first questions we might want to ask is, what qualities do I need to be with me? What qualities do I want present? And again, this also adds on the guidepost before of connection. And so these are really representatives. Any symbol that we bring in is a representative of something, the energy that that symbolic object is holding. And given that humans are naturally ceremonial, you know, we are very naturally looking for confirmation, looking for signs, looking for symbols. This might be something that has already been part of the conversation that is up until this point before the ceremony even begins. There might be imagery or symbols that are part of the metaphor of the changing story that is taking place. You know, that ceremony can mark a change in story, a change in state. So it might be a retroflective kind of a reflection on what has been showing up naturally or coming to mind. And then it also might be connecting this to your intention and the need. So, you know, different symbolic items might also represent what we're releasing, you know, what we're letting go of. And so there might be things that we bring in, objects that are part of that release or that letting go. We also might bring in symbolic items that represent what we're stepping into, or that, you know, mark the new kind of energy. So these questions of, you know, what symbols are meaningful to me, what metaphors are already present or unfolding, what qualities do I want to be present, and allowing this to sort of inform what's already here and what you want to heighten and draw on and connect to in the ceremony. And again, you know, simplicity always. And then coming round to our fourth guidepost of timing and place. So when is the time? Such a essential question. And one thing that Katie and I always talk about is setting the time. You know, that the timing is kind of unfolding, but actually that we need to consciously set the time, and that when we do this, we anchor in the ceremony. It begins the moment it's decided, that it's a very practical, minuscule step that has huge impact. So considering where this is going to fit in our world, and part of this is really looking at the possibilities as well as the practicalities. So we don't need to wait months or years to be able to have a ceremony. It's really asking what is possible, and making space for that. And this really speaks to how ceremony was such a part of our everyday, ordinary life, culturally and across our time as human beings on this planet. And so that really speaks to the power of 20 minutes or the impact of an hour. And so to be able to create a window of really entering in, and part of ceremony is that your deliberateness of that space and time. Accessibility in terms of what is accessible. And this also is really much a part of what's relevant, what holds relevance for you, what is personally meaningful and symbolic to you. What place are you in relationship with already? And that this relationship with those places is a real anchor. So you might ask yourself, what place is calling to you? What place is welcoming you, or is going to meet you in a particular way? And really inviting for this your childhood senses, your first thought, best thought, any kind of vision or images you might have. Similarly, like a child connecting to your body, like what kind of environment does your body most want that fits this need? So, is it a big, expansive place? Is it really cozy? Is it really private? What kind of ceremonial container is needed for this? That's a huge part of the holding. And again, sometimes in this, it might be a place that's really far away from your home, because, maybe it's got to do with something that you want to put away. So you kind of want the separation, but it also might be a corner in your living room, and a familiar place or a familiar tree, and something that is like right here already. So we can consider landscape, the weather, temperature, things like this as also mirrors for a particular energy that is part of this. And again, with every guidepost, there's the plan, and then there's also what happens, which we is part of embracing the energy of the ceremony that comes in. So the questions: when exactly will you enact this ceremony? To the, like putting it in the calendar. Where do you want to do it? And that as soon as we write down these two details, this is a form of commitment where a lot of these other pieces of creating ceremony actually start to pour in and become more clarified. And as it has begun.